show of Purposely Unplugged. Lori is extremely busy today. When we came on the screen, she was working away. That's all I can say. And I can't waste her time today. We're going to get right to it. Fawning. And when you sent me this earlier today and we were talking a bit about it, it comes back. It starts with that family of origin. What we started back in January, I want to say. Yeah, I think maybe December, January. And we're still stepping through all this because it's so important. But let's break this down because there's a lot of stuff in here that I got questions about. I can't keep you today. So let's get at it right now. What is fawning? Explain that whole scenario to me.
Well, Dave, we're all familiar with fight, flight, freeze. We know that. That's our automatic body response that when something scares us, we're fearful, our body just responds. We really don't control these things. They happen automatically. But there's another piece to add to this. So Pete Walker in 2013 started talking about fawning. So fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fawning is a person's attempt to please someone else to avoid conflict, to avoid criticism, or to walk away from disapproval.
The easy way out, really, right?
Well, it's not an easy way out because someone who's living this way, their body responds automatically and they really don't want to act in this way. So it's a bit of conflict internally for them, but their body does it automatically. There's this moment where instead of saying what they want or instead of standing up for themselves, they're over agreeable, they please others, they make decisions that other people will be happy with rather than what they need themselves. And as adults in relationship, we can compromise our relationships by doing that.
So when you say that the fight, flight, freeze is a response, is it an immediate and we don't control it? All right. So I'm backing it up just a slight bit here. So let's say you're confronted with something right away. Bang, it's in your face. Is that when the fight, flight, freeze, fawn takes over?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, it's very quick. So we can think about this in our work situations. We can think about this in our life situations, our home situations. So think about when your boss brings something to your attention that you did wrong. This person will automatically apologize, over apologize, correct the mistake, and then ensure that that never happens again, which in a work situation looks like a good thing, but really it's part of their automatic response and it actually facilitates this negative behavior in their response.
So where does all this start then with fawning? Is it
Mhm.
something that can all of a sudden just occur, or does it come through childhood? Explain this to me a little bit deeper now. Let's go another corner, around another corner here and see what we find.
hmm It's definitely trauma related. Absolutely.
Oh,
Lots of the research indicates as well that it does often start when someone is young. Something goes awry, something's not aligned with reinforcement, support, encouragement, something goes awry. And that young person learns that if they please others, they feel more comfortable. When they please others, they get the reinforcement. Then there's this cycle that happens that pleasing others at the cost of your own needs becomes this purpose and becomes this reinforcement cycle.
wow. I, but aren't we as kids almost trained that way? Like, I don't know if I'm going off the board on this one, but I'm just thinking any athletic endeavor I've ever did, the goal was to please the coach to get more ice time. You know what I mean? As a kid, that's what you did. You performed, right? Weren't
Mhm.
we sort of being trained that way?
You're right. The general public is trained that way. But in some circumstances where there's been trauma or neglect or abuse, I'm talking about situations where there's things that went awry in childhood, that this became a predominant force. That now, as an adult, some people are making decisions where they don't have a sense of their own identity. They're going to make a decision that makes someone else happy. Where in relationships, there's some codependence and some attachment trauma that you see. So really, David, it's linked more to trauma, something that happened repeatedly and over, and maybe from a caregiver. So rather than just a coach here, Dave, it might have been a parent, a family member, many family members. These are caregivers where that young person didn't feel validated, approved, supported, but they got that when they were acting in a way to please others. And it just became this loop and this cycle, and it becomes a predominant behavior.
Now, let's take it a little bit further. How do you get out of that? Can you get out of that? If you've been in that
Hmm.
for 50 years, how do you break that?
Hmm.
I guess you don't break it, do you? You sort of try and understand it.
Hmm. Awareness is always a big piece. And in all honesty, it takes someone being able to start to talk about this and bring their awareness to it. And Dave, this is something that I've been talking about more and more, and realize it's something that's coming up for me when I'm with clients 4 and 5 times a week. It's
Wow.
something that it's predominant. Now, I can't say it's just men or just women. It's all of us. But really, the research around this in 1999 suggested that when a young person kind of takes on a parental role, that parentification, and then in other situations, research shows too that when there's trauma effects where emotions and agreeableness are affected, that those are the two top predominances leading to someone kind of operating in this way where fawning becomes something that they're doing automatically.
So, and can you give me an example of that one where you said about the um, independence, where they're taking care of helping other ones, like in their family? Like, what do you mean by that? As an older child, you're looking after the younger ones? Like, I break that down for me a bit.
Yeah, the word around that, Dave, is parentification.
Okay.
Yes, that could be. It could be taking care of other kids. It could be taking care of yourself. Some people that I see, adults, have been saying that they've been taking care of themselves as far as meals, laundry, all kinds of
Okay.
things since they were 10 and 12. So it's really called parentification, where in a situation you would expect an adult around you to provide support, care, love, connection, warmth, whatever you want to call that. Sometimes that goes awry. So there's multiple places this could start. There's multiple ways this can be reinforced, but it's when it becomes someone's predominant automatic response when they're stressed, they can't stop it, they can't shift it. That's when we should start having conversations in a therapeutic environment.
Wow. This is a lot deeper than it looks. Like, you know what I mean? You're just, when we're talking about fawning, you don't think you're going down this road and you don't see all these situations that are occurring, because to me, it sounds a little bit like a positive word, you
Hmm.
know? And I'm like, oh, I think a lot of us, as we've aged, and I think you're no different than I, that I always enjoy helping other people. It's not that I have that drive. Like, I don't think it's something I'm obsessed with. I think it's something that I relish. I want to see people succeed. Is I think that's different. Do you not?
It is very different. This is someone who can't say no. This is someone who's put someone else's needs above their own. This is someone that might pay your rent, but not pay their own rent.
Ah,
So this is where this becomes something different. So it's an over agreement. It's kind of a lack of boundaries. It's fixing, rescuing. It's over apologizing. It becomes something where that person isn't meeting their own needs to meet someone else's. Dave, I have the sense if I asked you to do something and you weren't able, you'd be able to tell me no.
yeah, yeah, sure, no problem. Uh, yes, I think I could too. I think that, but there's so many layers to this. Like, every time when you're explaining it to me, I kind of think, okay, so why, when someone's in that, like you mentioned in this piece that you'd sent to me, they don't even recognize who they are anymore. Are
Hmm.
they taking on the other um, characteristics of these other people? Is that what they're doing?
Maybe not even characteristics. I think it depends on what we're talking about, whether it's work or home or relationships.
Ah,
It's this piece, though, where if I want to do something and ask to do something, but the other person insists on doing it a different way, then that person's going to say, okay, and just go with it. Because it's easier than having a conflict. It's easier than having that criticism. And it's easier than standing up and saying, no, this is why.
and that can be related back to them, to the trauma, because they're not able to take that stand to defend
Hmm.
themselves.
Hmm.
Correct.
Absolutely.
So that
The
they maintain control of something. That's what it boils down to, doesn't it? Really? that they sort of have some kind of control?
Or they're attempting to control a situation by negating their own needs, by not standing up, by not using their voice.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not so much even about control, it's more about this ease and comfort and avoiding conflict. So, not so much control, it's avoiding conflict. It's a little bit different. And when someone operates and lives in this manner, you're right, they often don't know because it is the normal way they function. And Dave, that's what sparked this. My entire life changed a year ago, and it's when my best friend passed. In those last few moments with her, that is what she said to me, Dave. And I know we're on screen, but here we go. She said, make sure you take care of Lori. And honestly, my response to her was, who's Lori? Like it's
Yeah, because you're so enthralled, eh? Man,
Yeah. So
it's
it was
incredible.
it was my best friend of 36 years that said, make sure you take care of yourself. And I didn't even hear the message. I really had to have a wake up call. That shifted. I did some research, now start talking to clients about it, giving clients the option to think about it, to then kind of decide if this works for them, if has meaning for them, and then how to shift it. But awareness is the beginning, conversation is the beginning, and then that is something that you should do with a therapist if you're interested.
It's almost like in that scenario, you're. There's two words here: compromise. If I'm in a scenario where I just don't want that fight or that argument, I'm going to
Mm-hmm,
compromise. But
mm-hmm,
I'm also going to remember how I want to get to the ends of that means. By that I
mm-hmm,
mean, okay, we don't agree on this right now. I'm fine with that, but I'm going to revisit this, maybe
mm,
in a better time, space. You know what I mean? And I think when you were in that scenario with your friend, that may be what you were thinking at that time. Then you're coming back around to it and going, oh, wait a minute, right? Because you were identifying who Lori really was again.
yeah.
That's incredible. What a breakthrough for you. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm,
because, and then you, like you said, then you can look at other people and say, well, wait a minute, when
mm-hmm,
they're doing their own sort of, their own evaluation of where they are in their lives and looking
mm-hmm,
at all the fight flight, and they're
mm-hmm,
picking freeze or fawning, and they're sort of saying, oh man,
mm-hmm,
it's, it never stops amazing me what we're capable of. I don't know about
mm-hmm.
you, but when we do our shows, I'm always amazed at these things that we can sort of bring out and sort of tell people that maybe it just gives them a little bit of an insight of what's going on in their lives or someone around them, right? To look at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, Dave. When someone's done this is their mode of survival. So very early
Yeah.
on, they learned that this was survival. So when you do research around this, it's the difference between surviving and thriving. So that's actually what Pete Walker's book is titled, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving. So that's the difference. And these are the languages and the wording that we would have around it. And honestly, it just needs, and what I present is a scenario in therapy, and I say, is this possible that this might be something more? How often does this happen? How else do you feel this? That's how a client can determine whether it's something that's even important to them or not, vital for them or not, and whether it's even something that needs more discussion or not.
There's post traumatic again, eh? It always is right there,
Hmm.
stepping forward in another form that we have to
Hmm.
investigate and sort of look at and see through a different lens to help folks. How do people get a hold of you if they want to talk fawning with you?
Phone is always easiest, 226-934-7425.
Okay, and you can go to your website, purposefullyunplugged.com, check that
Hmm.
out, and give you a chat. Thanks for doing this today, Lori. I really appreciate it.
Have a good day.